Hi all, this is Allmighty and welcome to this video. So today I decided to prepare a game suggested to me by a subscriber. This time it is a game between Vassily Ivanchuk and Sergey Karjakin. Vassily Ivanchuk is actually the first timer on this channel and I was pretty surprised by it because I have thought that I already shown a few games from him, but this is the first one and it is a nice one, so that is a nice touch. It is a game from the Ember tournament in 2008, played in France, and one important thing to say about it, it is a rapid game. So, both, I guess all of you know about Vassily Ivanchuk, also known as Chucky, and all of you know about Sergey Karjakin, so there is no need for the introduction. Let's just jump right into the game. It is a rapid game, and I wanted to touch on also on that subject because I've been watching some interviews with the players. So first of all, this is the Sicilian. I've been watching some interviews with the players, so now the Grand Chess Tour is pretty popular. At the moment, a single cup is coming. Players definitely like, and people, the fans, the chess fans, like to see more rapid and more blitz games because people get into open positions. There is more attacking chance. Because the players say that indeed when you play the classical game, if you make one mistake, then it is really hard to get back from it. You essentially lost the game. But in Blitz and in Rapid, it is a nice thing that you can make a mistake and get back from it very easily. You just need to complicate things. And this is exactly what Ivanchuk does in this game. So after knight to f3, we see d6, quickly going through the opening, all standard stuff, d4 pawn captures on d4, knight captures on d4, knight to f6, knight to c3, and we have the Najdorf on the board. And Ivanchuk plays bishop to c4, going for the Fischer or the Sozin attack, e6, bishop to b3, and b5. It is nice to see that bishop to g5, we have an opening in modern chess where seemingly the Sicilian doesn't really go by the principles. You see that all of these pawns have been pushed, the minor pieces, so only the knight is developed, and still black is considered to be good in this opening. So this is why I guess the Sicilian is pretty popular with the players playing such a style and such a setup, and still, yeah, you're quite good. But here, okay, of course, you have to play bishop to e7 to unpin this knight, and of course, Ivanchuk uses this opportunity because b5 was pushed to go for this very sharp line. Queen to c7, the move you need to make, because after e5, which was a threat, now you can play bishop to b7, stop the threat of going for the rook, and now the queen is attacked. Pawn captures on d6, and bishop captures on d6, and now queen to e3, moving the queen out of the attack. If bishop to g2, this is then definitely a lost game for black. It doesn't seem at the moment. After rook to g1 and when bishop comes back, there is a move knight to f5. So the king is in the center, this g7 pawn is attacked, the bishop is attacked, and it's very difficult for black to hold everything. Also bishop to e3, e6 could be a threat. Yeah, this is falling apart for black, so don't even try to capture this pawn on g2. So instead of that, of course, yeah, Karjakin knows this, so he plays bishop to c5. We have queenside castle, and now after knight to c6, now it's time for the complications. And Ivanchuk goes for this variations. I was very, very excited when I saw this move. Queen captures on e6. It is a rapid game. I doubt that Ivanchuk would play this if it were if it was a classical game. But for rapid and blitz, definitely this variation can be something that you want to play. Pawn captures on e6 and knight captures on e6. It seems that white has sacrificed a queen for a pawn. But now the queen is attacked, this bishop is attacked, and this pawn is attacked. You would like to defend the bishop. So black plays queen to e5, and we see knight to g7 check. King to f8, knight to e6 back, and now king to f7. Rook from h to e1. And this is where it all could have gone the other way. You could, for example, move the queen somewhere else. Of course, knight to c5 would then come with check with tempo. So Karjakin decided to simplify the position and said, okay, since I am a queen up, I can give up my queen for a rook and simplify the position and still be better. But okay, it isn't all that simple, because after queen to e1, there is this knight to c5 intermediate move, because it comes with check, king to g6, and only now rook captures on e1. King captures on g5, and knight captures on b7. And after all this, we come into this variation, which could have easily been avoided. Karjakin comes in a situation he is in the end only the exchange up, but he faces the position with 3 pawns down. So for a player with Ivanchuk's caliber, this should be pretty easy winning, and white is indeed better in this position, because even though it is an exchange, beating 3 pawns, it is quite difficult. Here black plays knight to d4, centralizing knight first, and then going about attacking this bishop, and Ivanchuk of course plays knight to d6, bring the knight back into the game. Rook from h to f8 and f3, a very nice move, defending the pawn from f2 by pushing f3, and of course having this square for the knight to jump to and maybe centralize it. We have b4, attacking the knight, and Ivanchuk quite simply agrees with it, plays knight to e4, wants to exchange pieces. Knight captures, and now rook captures, centralizing the rook, and knight captures on b3. Pawn captures on b3, and a5, defending the pawn. And after all this, we see that white is so Ivanchuk is pretty happy with the situation. Of course, Karjakin wasn't forced into any exchanges, but he still did it, and in the end he is in a position where he plays knight against rook, but being 3 pawns down, and this is definitely a winning endgame for white, but it is up to Ivanchuk and his technique to go about and win this, and let us just see how it is done. You will see a pretty simple pattern of positioning your pieces. Of course, the communication between the knight and rook is very important, and yeah, that's just about it. At every point, you should definitely be aware of black rooks and not to allow them to give you some nasty check, or maybe go about attacking one of your weak pawns, because that would definitely put your position in some kind of a danger. But other than that, it should be fine, because 3 pawns are still 3 pawns. The first thing that you would like to do is probably create a pass pawn, which you could push. First, Ivanchuk starts with rook to g4 check, king to f6, and knight to e4. A fine centralization of the knight. This is very important, because the knight can jump to any side of the board where he is needed at the moment, but now it's also time to actually build around your knight. King to e5 and rook to h4, attacking the pawn. And now, very strange decision by Karjakin, leaving this pawn. So rook to a7 seemed like a pretty normal move, just defending the pawn. He decided to play a4. We have pawn captures on a4, rook captures on a4, and now first a knight to c5. And why knight to c5? Well, a knight to d3 could be a possible very good move. The knight is attacking the rook. When the rook moves, rook to b4 is also always a good move. So yeah, that is quite simply it. Rook to a1, king to d2, and now rook to g8, attacking this pawn. g3 and rook to f1. Now we have king to e2, defending the pawn, and rook to b1. Notice that when you have an endgame where there are pawns like these, it is very important to leave only one pawn which is defended and make the other pawns defend themselves, because that's the easiest way how to control the position. And this is exactly what Ivanchuk is doing here. But also at the same time, communication between the king and the knight. The king can defend this pawn, and the knight can jump to d3, give check, so rook to c1 wasn't possible. You want to go and attack this pawn, but now a rook to b4 is quite simply an easy move to make for white. King to d5, attacking the knight, and now knight is allowed to go back to e4. King to c6, and we have h4. Look at this knight, just a beautiful centralized knight which now defends the pawn on g3, and you are allowed to push h4. Rook to h1, threats of maybe some checks, so rook to c4, first check, now the rook is defending this pawn. King to b6 and b4. It is time, since you have the passed pawn, to push it. Rook to d8, and we have rook to c5. As you can see, what you need to do when you are in endgame such as this one. Don't allow some nasty checks, put the pieces on the squares where they are defended, preferably with the pawns, and easy peasy. Rook to a8, and we can see that Karjakin doesn't really have a good idea how to approach this position. We have c3, rook to a2 check, king to e3, and now rook to e1, king to f4, and now finally rook to f1 with some attacking chances on the f-pawn, but white can clearly tackle this. First rook to h5, rook to a8, could have played rook to a7, but the idea is the same. You want to play the rook to f8 and pick up this pawn. But we see first rook to h6 check, king to b5, and now knight to d6. And the idea behind knight to d6 is first not allow the king to come closer, but also have the resource of playing knight to f5, because there will be a check. Knight to f5 doesn't allow the picking up of the pawn. King to a4, and now rook captures on h7. And now, even though the whole time white was the exchange down, he managed to pick up all of black's pawns, and now he is not up 3 pawns but 5 pawns. But Karjakin still plays on. We see king to b3, and after rook to c7 rook to d8, attacking this knight, knight comes to f5. Here in this position, Karjakin resigned the game. Once again, everything is defended. White's plan is simple: push the passed pawns, at the same time not allow to be checked, and put your pieces on the squares where they are defended by the pawns. So yeah, a nice lesson, a nice showing of technique in this endgame by Vassily Ivanchuk, a very good game. And yeah, I'm really glad that this was the first game that I showed from Chucky. Okay, so this is pretty much it for this video. As I said, this has been a suggestion by a subscriber. If you have nice suggestions like, for example, this one, definitely do suggest them in the comments down below. I will be really glad to showcase some of your favorite games. That being said, I would like to thank you for watching this video, and I will see you next time.